It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Great to have you in studio with us today. Today we're going to be talking about the Verde River Greenway State Natural Area. I have no idea what this is. And Max Castillo, Park Ranger, is in studio today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you. And you were going to fill me in and educate us on this situation.
I am going to do my best.
This beautiful area that we have. Let's get right into it. Tell me about this natural area. Where does it start? Where does it end?
Well, a little bit of history on it. In 1986, they did the Verde River Riparian Corridor project,
okay,
which is a big, long name for a big, long stretch of river. They were looking at public access from TAPCO, the Arizona Power Company up in Clarkdale,
okay,
all the way down to Beasley Flats and Camp Verde. And they were looking at how the public access was working and what they could do to improve it. And so out of that study, they came up with the idea that we should protect a reach of this river, but maybe the 35 miles was too much. So they picked a 6-mile reach, which went from the Tuzagoot Bridge on the north to the 89A Bridge on the south.
okay.
And Governor Babbitt and Dan Campbell from the Nature Conservancy went out and knocked on doors, and people would answer their door, and here'd be Governor Babbitt and Dan Campbell standing there wanting to know if they wanted to sell their riverfront property for this Verde River Greenway project. And what that was to try again to protect that riparian corridor. And you know, the riparian corridor, a lot of people don't know what that means. It just has to do with water.
Okay.
Whether it's a moving stream or a river like the Verde River, it could be a marsh like Tavasi Marsh up at the northern end, and it could just be a spring, right?
Okay.
Coming up out of the ground, going 100 yards down a wash, and then going back in. That little area right there is a riparian area.
Okay, all right. So
because it has to do with water.
You just told me that before the show. I'd never known that before, but if there's water involved, it's a riparian area.
And so anyway, they got $2 million allocated for this project, and that went real quick. But the beauty of it was they'd go out and talk to people, and they spent the $2 million, but they got $250,000 worth of properties donated to this Verde River Greenway project because people thought that was really a neat thing to do.
Good, good.
And so, you know, the whole concept all along was to protect the corridor, but also to provide public access. And so that's been, you know, one of our concerns and driving forces to get that public access in there. The other part of this is that the Verde River's Greenway in the riparian area is a very fragile area. It doesn't look like it. You know, the cottonwood trees are big, gigantic trees, the willow trees, but it is very, very fragile, and it can be damaged very easily. So as part of the natural area concept is we have, I don't want to say passive because we allow fishing, kayaking, canoeing, those are active deals. We try to encourage passive recreation down there where you're going out there and you're walking down the trail looking at birds, or you're going down a trail, you know, looking at the wildlife or the plants or whatever you're trying to do, but not impacting the area, just staying on the trail.
It's to pass through.
Right.
It's an area to pass through.
And we want to leave it. And, you know, my wife and I have gone down and walked the jail trail early in the morning and seen a herd of deer grazing or browsing along the edges, and the birds all waking up. You can hardly hear yourself talk for all the birds because many birds use this area for nesting and feeding areas. And a lot of them use it as they follow the riparian areas. And I had mentioned earlier that the riparian area along the Verde River is a contiguous riparian area, which is unusual in Arizona. It's only one of 3 in Arizona and one of 20 in the world that has this contiguous status about it.
More reason to save it.
Right. And a lot of the migratory birds will fly along these water courses because they can have places to stop and rest. They have places to feed, and they use them as guideways to go north. Or else they know that, you know, a lot of rivers,
I'll be darned,
all rivers go like this. They don't like to be straight.
Sure.
And so they know that they can fly from point A to point B and be back on a river again that has big trees and food and stuff, so they can cut across country, but they can fly from twisty turn to twisty turn and get food and shelter. Some of them nest down there.
I would think. I mean, how safe would you be in a giant cottonwood tree? I mean, pretty darn safe.
Fairly safe, yeah. Yeah, we have a couple of areas along the Greenway that was originally started there where we have the common black hawk, which is not common, that nest along there. And then we have
We've actually seen those
flycatcher.
outside the station,
Yes.
the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
They are beautiful birds.
Yeah.
And we have the willow flycatcher nesting along there. There's the yellow-billed cuckoo. There's a lot of different birds that use that area down there.
Oh, I'll be darned. I had no idea. Now, do we know why? Okay, we had a 35-mile stretch at first.
Yeah.
Tapco in Clarkdale all the way down to Bridgeport Bridge just outside the building here.
Well, that's 6 miles from from the
from
Tuesday
Tapco-
Bridge.
oh,
From Tuesday
that's the
Bridge.
6 miles.
Yes, that's 6 miles.
So what was the original 35 miles gonna
That was
be?
from Tapco all the way down to Beasley Flats. That was
all
again
the way
that
out through Camp Verde.
that
Okay.
Verde River Riparian Corridor project. They were looking at public access.
Okay.
And how they could improve them or do different things to help with that
Gotcha.
public access. Well, I got sidetracked there, but back to the
It's okay.
to the history there of the Greenway. It went from 1986 to about 2004 with that 6 mile reach.
Okay.
And I would get a lot of people asking me about properties south of the Bridgeport Bridge. They wanted to be part of the Greenway project.
Sure.
They wanted to sell their property or do what they could to be part of the project. And I'd have to tell them we weren't interested because it stopped at the 89A
Ooh, that must
bridge
have
here
been
in
hard.
Bridgeport. It was.
Yeah.
But then the beauty of it is in 2005, the State Parks Board decided to increase the area of interest for the Greenway to go from Tuzagoot Bridge on the north all the way down to Beasley Flats for 30 miles. It's about 30 miles.
Nice.
And that worked out really well. And I thought, well, that's nice, that we're getting this interest because now I can tell people that we're interested in it. And I didn't think much was going to happen. And the next thing I knew, we had 40 acres down in Camp Verde right behind Bashas there off of Finney Flat Road. And then in 2008, we picked up a 209-acre ranch down on Salt Mine Road. So we really are making this connection all the way down. And as I was telling you before we had this interview, the whole concept of the Verde River Greenway was we were never going to own all the property, but we wanted to work cooperatively with the property owners to maintain this riparian corridor, to keep it healthy and give a place for the wildlife and people to enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, once the Verde River's gone, it's gone.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. We should probably take a first break.
Okay.
Okay. Max Castillo is in studio today. He's the unit manager, park ranger down at the Verde River Greenway State Natural Area. And I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
I would steal pills from my friend's mom.
We talk about all the common drugs, but never prescription medication.
I was addicted to pills.
Had I more knowledge, I would have done things differently.
Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
Thanks for calling the GED Pep Talk Center. Jerry Siller speaking. Your level 7 in-your-face pep talk.
I can keep pushing you. Believe me, I'm good at it. But at some point, you're going to need to start pushing yourself.
See, once you've got your GED diploma, you'll feel so good about yourself.
You tell them. You can't change the past, but you can definitely change the future. That makes me so happy, I'm ready to bust out a dance.
Mr. Trejo, can I transfer this guy to you? My gentle technique isn't really working. You need something a little more
persuasive.
Yes.
You listen, and you listen good.
Hey, where's my sandwich? Terry? Terry!
Take it from me, the King DMC. It's a real cool thing to get your GED.
Get that diploma!
Now hold on and we'll find you free GED classes. Capiche?
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
Ronnie had huge aspirations.
He knew he could get pills in the community.
He found his body in an apartment in Telford.
I never thought my son would take prescription drugs without a prescription.
Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Paul David, Park Ranger Max Castillo in studio. We're talking about the Verde River Greenway State Natural Area right here in the Verde Valley. It starts at Tapco, and then it runs...
Tuzagoot Bridge.
Tuzagoot Bridge, and then runs all the way down, portion of Camp Verde.
Yeah, and it goes into Camp Verde to Beasley Flats at the beginning of the Wild and Scenic River. Now, before we get too far along there, Clarkdale is working on a project called the Verde at Clarkdale that goes from Tapco to the Tuzagoot Bridge area right there.
So then they'll take that care of that part.
Right, and they're working as that part. And they're working on getting a river access point, or RAP is what we call them, river access point. And so it's going to go from Tapco, lower Tapco, to Tuzi RAP, which is the Tuzagoot Bridge. And then we have the Tuzagoot Bridge goes down to Dead Horse, has several river access points. And then we have the Mingus Avenue Extension Bridge. We're trying to work with the county on getting a river access point underneath the Mingus Avenue Extension Bridge. Then we have a river access point just up here at the 89A Bridge. So the theory is that at each bridge we'll have a river access point. And the other side of that coin is that on each bridge we're going to put a sign on it that lets the people coming down river know which bridge they're at, because so many people don't know.
Sure.
Well, once you get out on the river, you would not believe you're in the middle of town.
Oh, really?
Because you're going down you're paddling down the river, and
I guess I know
the
that
wood
from
ducks.
fishing.
The wood ducks are there, the otters are there, you know, you can see the bass swimming through the water, and you just would not know you're in town until you see a house.
Right.
Or you see a bridge and hear traffic.
Spectacular. What kind of, we've got some endangered species that call this area home. We mentioned the blackhawk. I don't know, is the blackhawk endangered?
It is not endangered, it's threatened, I believe.
Threatened, okay.
Right,
All
so
right.
it's getting ready to go on the list if it doesn't keep doing well.
But we do have some species that live along the Verde River in the Verde Valley that are special.
We do. And we have not only birds, the willow flycatcher and the yellow-billed cuckoo, but we also have the, I believe it's called the narrow-headed Mexican garter snake, which is indigenous to riparian areas.
Okay.
It eats small fish and frogs and such, and it's really a neat-looking little snake. And so, and then we have a couple of turtles. I am not a biologist. And then on the uplands above the river, along that what they call the tertiary limestone deposit, we have some rare and endangered plants that only grow in that habitat just above the river there in that limestone.
Cliff rose?
We have the cliff rose.
Okay.
We have the Verde Valley sage.
Okay.
And the Ripley's wild buckwheat.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so, you know, those plants, the cliff rose is really a beautiful little plant. It smells great. And it grows up on that limestone. And then we have, again, the Verde Valley sage. It's a small plant about like this, gray-green, smells like sage. And then the Ripley's wild buckwheat looks like a dead stick almost with little green prongs sticking out of it. And it's really a neat-looking little plant.
I'll be darned. Well, with these special animals here, and you said folks have said, why aren't you down there weeding the trails and getting this stuff cleaned up? There's very good reasons as to why you don't do that.
There is. I was telling Paul here about the jail trail. There's willow flycatchers are using that area as habitat. So because of the willow flycatchers, we're only allowed to do noisy maintenance, mowing and stuff like that in the wintertime. And then usually we stop about May. I was telling him I was going to go out there today and mow the trail for the last time until September, because the sound of the noisy mowers and stuff will make the willow flycatchers move off their nests and leave their eggs alone, and we don't want that to happen.
Therefore, they remain endangered.
Right.
We're trying to keep that from happening.
And it's kind of like the Mingus Extension Bridge. If you remember when they were building that, they had to stop construction from June until September for that very same reason, because they didn't want to have the willow flycatchers being driven off their nest by the equipment.
I had forgotten about that. And I remember they also had somebody that actually sat down river from that bridge to make sure fish weren't dying during construction, just to see what was coming down river. And if a fish
right, and there's the endangered fish. I am, again, not a biologist, so I don't know. There's the
humpback chub, spike-dace minnow, and there's a few of them.
And the Colorado pike minnow.
Spike-dace.
The Colorado pike minnow.
Pike minnow, okay.
Right.
All right.
And so, there's several fish that we have to be concerned about also. And so it's an interesting balancing act where you get the public access, but you have to balance the resource protection and what's going to happen down there.
It sounds a lot like the areas where we get to go in the bald eagle closures. I think it's December 1st they usually go in, and then they get lifted around June 1st. And it sounds sort of like the same thing where you just don't want people in there. You want it to be as natural as possible, where the birds are allowed to just live their lives and do their thing without being disturbed by us.
And again, you were talking about the mowing. We can't mow everything out there because, a garter snake doesn't live in the trees; it lives on the ground. So you want to leave cover for the garter snake. You've got they need the bugs. The birds need the bugs that are living in the weeds. So it's kind of a
natural means natural, though.
That's kind of what it means.
Yeah. The whole idea is to go out there and see something in the state that it's supposed to be in without being touched by us and bothered by us. Wouldn't you say?
That's exactly what natural area means, and it's a hard concept to get across. And it's really neat because we're working right now. I'm going to jump into the Friends of the Verde River Greenway.
Okay.
They started off as a volunteer organization, great people, but it was all volunteer. We had just a very minimal budget, and we were trying to do invasive plant removal. Well, invasive plants are the ailanthus tree, the Chinese tree of heaven, the Siberian elms, tamarisks, arundo, which looks like the big bamboo. And you go out there and you treat it once with a group of volunteers, that's great. But then by the time you come back the next time to do it again, it's come back even bigger.
Right.
The beauty of that is now the Friends of the Verde River Greenway have turned into a very major volunteer friends group.
Yeah.
And they've gotten a grant from the Walton Family Foundation, and they've started several projects. One of them is the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition, and that has public agencies, private entities, the cities, the towns, the county, all of us working together on a common goal of getting rid of the invasive plants along the Verde River.
And we've talked to Steve Estes several times on this one, and then we've got the one for the Verde going on right now as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, after all these years, I've been with the Greenway since '98, and it's very exciting to see all of this excitement and people finally realizing that we have a magical resource out there that's it's rare.
Yeah.
And, there's not a whole lot of them in Arizona where you have a river that goes 180 miles without any diversions, or not diversions, but dams on it.
They are becoming more and more rare. I can think of all the times that I've actually gotten off work here and taken my little spin cast reel or my fly reel and either gone downriver or upriver and fished and just, sandals on, shorts and a t-shirt, my hat on, my fanny pack with a few little fishing gear things, and just walk that river. And it's just it's a great way to go out and relax and enjoy yourself.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I always told people that I take a fishing pole with me, because if you're sitting on the shore of anything and you're just sitting there, you're lazy. But if you got a fishing pole, at least you're fishing.
At least you're doing something.
And lots of times I don't have even a hook on my line. I just flip the line out there so it looks like I'm fishing.
Yeah.
But you're still enjoying it.
Don't be cold lazy. All right, we're talking Verde River Greenway State Natural Area. It's right here in the Verde Valley. If you've not seen it, well, I don't know how you could not see it. You drive by it probably every day. Stick around. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
One of the areas still maturing in an adolescent brain is the prefrontal cortex. So when we take drugs, we alter key motivational circuits, changing the wiring needed for the cognitive function of the brain, until we can't totally deal with things like memory, thinking things out, and even learning stuff.
The signs are there. So is our help. Visit the partnership at drugfree.org for practical advice on coping with teen drug use.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it! I see it! Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left of the program. We want to make sure we talk about the paddle trail.
The paddle trail.
Is that new?
It's not real new. Gosh.
I'm out of the loop on this whole thing.
It's been this first one here, this Verde River Paddle Trail.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little guide. You go to ArizonaStateParks.com, pick a park, go to Verde River Greenway or Dead Horse, either one, and then go to Maps, and you'll be able to download these paddle trail guides.
Awesome.
This one's been around. The first one, the Verde River Paddle Trail, was done about 8 years ago.
Okay.
And it goes from the Tuzagoot Bridge down to 89A, and it has interesting little maps on it, because the first time I saw it, I told them, well, you need to turn them around because north is supposed to be at the top. Well, actually on these you're going south, and so the maps are printed upside down because that's the way you're going with the river.
Gotcha.
And so it's an interesting map. It has GPS coordinates, tells you where there's dangers, zones. Our river up here is mild and scenic. I was telling you earlier, I joke with the Forest Service. They have their river rangers that do the wild and scenic from Beasley Flats down to Horseshoe Dam or Sheep Bridge. And I joke that I'm the mild and scenic ranger because I do from up here at Tuzagoot Bridge down to Beasley Flats, the beginning of their wild and scenic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a nice river. We have a lot of places where you can get and do short paddle trips. But the thing you have to remember about the Verde River is we've got a life vest here, a PFD. Is even though you can stand up in most parts of it, wear your PFD, because there are parts you cannot stand up in.
Sure.
And if you get out of your boat and you happen to get hit on the head and you're unconscious, you're definitely not going to stand up.
Right.
So we wear PFDs no matter where we're at. We don't wear the helmets. The helmet here is for when we're doing mountain bike. But, you know, wear your PFD, take your safety equipment with you, have extra paddles. Tell somebody where you're going.
Right.
Tell somebody where you're going. Do not try and go down the river by yourself. It's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
We had an incident the other day where somebody had their kayak get swamped 3 times, and by the time they got to the 3rd time, they were so tired and cold that they couldn't get it back out. Fortunately, they had their cell phone with them, and we could go down and pull their kayak out for them.
See, there it is right there, huh?
But, you know, just be careful, but have fun.
We've got about 30 seconds left. We've got private property along this greenway as well. We should be respective of that.
And on each one of these paddle guides, it has a map, again, like I said, and it shows you where the private property is, gives you the GPS coordinates, and it reminds you to respect private property. Do not go onto private property. If you're going down the river and you come to a piece of private property, stay on your boat until you get to the next public access point or the next public land.
Right.
Because we want to work with everybody. We don't want to aggravate anybody.
Well, if you ever have stuff come up that you need help with, make sure you give me a call so we can talk about it on the air, okay?
Okay.
For more information, 634-5283. That puts them into Dead Horse Ranch State Park, and that's a great place to start for more information. And, of course, the website, you could Google Verde River Greenway State Natural Area, and it pops right up. So, Max, very good to meet you again. Great coming into the studio.
Thank you.
I'm Paul David. That's today's Countywide, and we will talk to you again next time.